Hey guys, this is actually the third time I'm recording this. Oh my gosh. It's one of those days. But today I'm excited because we're going to be sketching one of the suggestions that you guys gave me in the comments, which is awesome. So if you have ideas, be sure to leave a comment, turn on alerts, hit subscribe, come find me on the socials, Instagram, all that good stuff. So we're going to be using pens, markers, paper, of course. All those materials are listed below, but if you don't have any of that stuff, that's okay. Just grab what you have and follow along. So with that, let's get started. So as always, if I don't know the subject matter very well, what I try to do is actually just use Google search and take a look at the object and get a sense or feel for what it is. So since I've never done this, we're going to just rough it out to start. So thankfully, I kind of have an idea of what this might look like proportionally. And so we can start by just kind of roughing this out like so. Here's maybe the front of the bus. Okay. And we've got the side. Now, I know we've got a wheel up front, so I can draw a square. One of the cool things you can do with a square rather, is you can actually multiply that square. So if we want to figure out how far back to put the wheels, we can actually do that here. So if I take these 2 points and draw through these points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see, 5. Oops, did that one incorrectly. Okay, 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Wrong point. 5, and then 6. We now have a square multiplied. And if that made no sense, basically what I'm doing is taking, say, this square, and if you divide it in half, okay, and project out, you're actually able to then estimate these two distances being equal. So this is what I'm doing in perspective to get my distances going back. And it's not perfect, but it's a good way to estimate going back, because in my research, I realized that as far as wheels go on this bus, we have about 5, 6 wheel distances between the pair or set of wheels in the back. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to cheat a little bit, say 5, and we're going to cheat and make this a little bit of a shorter bus, because even though I'm using this giant piece of paper today, it's a little bit cramped. All right, so we can also draw through onto the other side here and kind of get a sense for where this wheel is going to be, and it's going to be somewhere here. So if I'm drawing under the bus, like so, I'm going to have a wheel kind of like that. And then my wheel here. We can start to sketch in our wheel wells, like so. Just like that. And as far as where people kind of sit, actually, yeah, as far as where people sit, I'm just going to divide this in half for now. On the front, we kind of have the cab dipping down a little bit. So we'll connect all of that, curve the front and all that good stuff in just a sec. Now, the door, we're going to put the door right up front. So I'm going to extend the front of the bus. And again, this is why I'm roughing this out, because it's kind of hard to figure out all these details up front. Okay, so the door for the bus, we're just going to do a nice single wide door here. Carry these lines over like so. Something like that. I'm going to switch pens here. As much as I love this marker paper, it's kind of rough on these Papermate flares sometimes. So I'm going to switch to my Sharpie here, junk pen. So we'll curve the front of the bus out a little bit, like so. Get all the way to the back. And then I'm just going to follow these divisions that we had for the wheels, just to kind of divide the glass on the side of the bus. And we'll use this as an underlay. So we can just be free and kind of sketch through here. Now, if I want this design on the bus maybe to sweep down and then wrap on the front, we can do that. Maybe this is where we have some lights. We can just block that in for now. Sketch a little bit of the inside of the bus. Okay, curve that. Maybe this area is for the marquee. It tells you your route number on the front. And then here's our door. And this door, kind of want it to, integrate with the design. So I'm gonna integrate this curve into the door. And this door, it's one of those that would pop out and slide. So that's what we've got there. Okay, so now the wheels, we'll do some offset ellipses, just like this. And now I think we have enough that we can start to, I'll just block in the shadow for this thing as well as we go here. But now we have enough to at least use as an underlay. So I'm going to take this, and now, and in case you're wondering the size of this marker paper, it's 14 by 17 inches. I'm not sure what the metric standard equivalent is, but if you know that, feel free to hit me up in the comments. I'm in the United States and we use the imperial system, so that's why I don't know. Okay, so just for this part, we're going to redraw what we had before carefully, or as carefully as we can, and we'll keep it sketchy. All right, got our wheel. Get the body line. I am drawing with my shoulder as well, so that's something you want to try and do, is draw with your shoulder. And that's just going to help with the quality of your lines as you're sketching. All right, maybe there's some little cage thing on the front here, like a bumper of some sort. So I'll add that to our design for our bus, keeping it nice and loose. And then the lights, I'm going to change those because what we had before was kind of a placeholder, so I can do something that's maybe a bit more in line with the design. Okay, and then here on the side, I'm gonna leave a little sliver on the back here, and on the side, just drawing our nice body line that sweeps down like so and wraps this curved front edge of the bus like so. And if you notice, I'm rotating the page to where I'm most comfortable drawing my straight lines as much as I can. It's a big piece of paper, so it's a little bit harder. But the idea is to always find a way to not have to overcompensate and allow the paper to be in a position that just works for you. Okay, so if there's a certain angle, position, type of paper, what have you, anything you need to make your drawing go better for you, then I recommend definitely doing things that way. All right, so let's get our extra wheel well in the back here tied off and done. And maybe there's just, some sort of access panels on the side. Could be for luggage, could be just mechanical, whatever. So we'll just sketch those in. Let's finish our wheel here. And okay, we've got 1 and 2 wheels. Now the cab is forward, so that's why on the wheel here it looks like it's pushed further back. Okay. Now I will sketch just a light center line here. Whenever I do a vehicle, I like to have a center line of some sort. Okay. And outline. Then our hubs here. So I'm going to do 5 lugs. And we'll keep these simple. Okay, so we got our lugs. And just like that, we have the drawing portion of our bus completed. Just like that. All right. So now I'm going to keep the under sketch or the under drawing here, because now what I want to do is actually apply some marker on this marker paper. So I have this cool thing here. It's an air can, a Copic air can. So this isn't listed below in my normal videos, so I'm going to add that link for this video. But if you're interested, it's a way to turn your markers into an airbrush. So I'll show you how we're going to use that today. Now, since this is just a lot of glass, I need to take into account reflections. Okay, so there's going to be some sky up top. We're going to maybe have some things in the environment here. So I've got some gray markers, some dark gray, as well as black that I'm going to be using. So what I like to do is start by kind of mapping out where I think these reflections might be. Okay, and in this instance, maybe blocking in a little bit of the interior of the bus as well here. I know I'm going to get some sort of highlight on the top, but on the side here, you know, maybe we're going to get some like trees and buildings and whatever kind of happening in the side of the bus. Okay, so just with my gray marker, I can map that out. And then with a lighter gray marker, what I want to do is start to map out just some shading on the rest of this glass. Okay, so on the top, and like I mentioned, I always like to work light. So this is just a cool gray 1 marker right now. We'll just use that to kind of hit the area. And for these reflections here and artifacts, let's say on this corner, for example, we're going to just kind of shade down like so. And I'm not exactly creating a gradient because we're going to add some black to this to kind of help as well. But I want this to feel like, hey, you know, this bus is actually picking up some nice reflections here. Now, yes, the front glass would be clear, but just for stylistic effect, I'm going to make it totally dark. Of course, this is where, you know, the bus driver would sit and all that good stuff. So we can just kind of block that in like so. Get a little bit of the roof in like so. And then on the side of the bus, we'll just start filling in kind of this area where we're getting some of the environmental reflections happening. Just like that. I want to be kind of careful because I do want to introduce, and I did make a little mistake, I do want to introduce some color on this bus. So, well, actually, I'm just going to shade through since I already did it. Let's just roll with it. All right. So now I'm going to take a darker marker, and I have this blue violet 29, and I like it because it's very dark and it's not entirely black. So it's going to give the drawing, at least from my perspective and point of view, a bit more life than a straight black. We'll use some black as well, but this will kind of help the drawing feel a bit more lively and not as dead. So if you have a marker like that, great. If not, just a simple black or gray would work as well. Again, drawing with my shoulder, nice big strokes. And that way you can have better line quality as you're drawing. Okay, so there's some of that blue coming through, right? You can imagine if you had like a really dark green as well, you could use something like that. All right, so on the top here, we're gonna have a bit of a gradient. I mean, it's still black, so let's take this blue-violet marker and just start to shade the top like so. Okay, just like that. And what I want to do is make a nice gradient going up. So I'm gonna grab from my marker stash here. I've got a huge marker stash as always, and I'm not the most organized, so forgive me. But I'm gonna take this Cool Gray 3, nice wide marker, and this one's dead. I'm gonna get lazy. All right, so I'm going to take this Cool Gray 3 marker and just start to create a nice gradient on the side of the bus. We'll clean this up as we go. It's starting to blend a little bit. Okay, but again, I just want that nice gradient on the side. So we'll let this dry, but in the meantime, let's use our air marker. So like I mentioned, I'll be using this airbrush thing. So kind of the way it works is you just take a marker like so, and we can click it in the end. So it's all clicked in. There's the air can. And now when I engage, when I engage this trigger, you can see now I have some blue being sprayed. So just on this sketch, and here let's see if we can do this in a clean way, somewhat clean way. We'll just have a little bit of blue on the top, just like that. And we'll airbrush the other side of the bus as well. And now, make sure you pop that marker out and then cover it. And so now I can take my black marker, and I'm going to use this to kind of clean up these reflections that we have here. Okay, just like that. The nice thing about these Copic markers is they do blend very well. So if you have a bunch of colors you're working with or whatever, and the right marker paper, you can have some nice gradients, contrast, all that good stuff. Okay, so if you like markers, a good investment. And no, they don't sponsor me. But I'd be totally open to it if they want to hit me up. But yeah, it's a good idea if you like using markers just to invest in some good ones, and Copic markers are pretty great. So that's why I like them. Okay, so we got the hard part done, got the main body. Now let's get the wheels. And you know what? I'm just going to keep going with this blue-violet because I kind of like it. So we'll use this for wheels, and then we'll use black where we need to. I just like that it's a bit bluish and not a pure black. Okay, so with this, you can shade the underside like so. just kind of block it in, because we can add our marker where we need. And I'm shading in a way that allows the tip of the marker to kind of work nicely with the shape that I've drawn on the paper. All right, just like that. Shade in here, like so. Underneath, get that other wheel. And now I'm just going to take this black. This is just a regular black. I was using a variant of black as well called Special Black, but this is just regular old black now. And we'll get the shadows in like so, just on the top, or not the top, but inside this recess, and a little bit on the top here, a little bit under the bust as well. Get this wheel on the other side, just like so. All right, and we did have a shadow on the bottom, so I'm gonna go ahead and fill that in. Just be very careful not to overdo it. Okay, just shade that in. Nice consistent strokes. If you've got a wide Copic as well, you can also use that. But we'll just use our classic Copic marker here. Shade this in like so. Just like that. All right, so for the body of the bus, I mentioned I wanted to use yellow. So I'm gonna grab my yellow markers and then we will finish up here. All right, so I've got these yellow markers, and as always, I like to kind of start with the lightest. So just kind of outline here, just real light, where we're gonna be shading, like so. And I think for me, it's just, it's not that, you know, it automatically stops me as I'm applying the marker. It just kind of helps visually to have that boundary. Okay, since the side is flat, I'm just gonna apply kind of a traditional or standard marker gradient here, and we'll introduce some darker yellows into the side as well. But this way I can have, you know, some sort of indication of reflections happening. And right where this round is happening, I want to make sure I have a nice shadow core and gradient happening. So this is going to be a nice dark spot. And on the front here, we'll just finish shading like so. And now these other yellow areas, I can start to apply my darker, oh, looks like I have two of the same marker. Apply my darker yellows. So this is a yellow 35. I'm just gonna hit some of these reflective areas because I want it to appear a little bit shiny, right where it's rounding on the bottom of the bus. These divisions as well. Just gonna hit those spots a little bit, make those dark so they stand out. Where we have these parts, for example, on the door, kind of hit that. And when you work with markers, you can always wait a little bit, let them dry on the paper, and then that way, when you hit it again, it's gonna appear a little darker. And then you can jump to your, you know, darker yellow. So this is a honey yellow, it's called. At this point, I'm gonna start working on the side a little bit in terms of contrast. I've got my white pencils, as well as I want to add some graphics to the bus as well. So with my gray marker, we're just gonna kind of blend across the front or side, or the side rather, here, just like that. Okay, just to kind of ease the transition a bit, and then I'll jump back to my 30% here, and we'll just finish out the blend. Now, I did have a slight technical difficulty, so if you notice, I did work on the airbrush portion just a little bit on the top, as well as introducing a bit of contrast here. Now, for the window separations, I'm going to wait until my ink's a little bit drier, but for now, let's work on the rims. So I've got this Cool Gray 2 marker, and we're just going to keep these simple. So I'm just going to shade as if these are kind of some sort of disc rim. I'm not going to worry too much about the detail on these right now. And then the wheels themselves, just with a little pencil, I can help with the shadow tone texture of the wheels. So this is where if you're working with marker, pencil can come in handy just to kind of fill in and help. All right, the headlights. Let's see, headlights, I'm going to use a combination of gray and black. Let's see, it's Cool Gray 8, so we'll use Cool Gray 6 here. Just kind of shade in a little bit on the headlight, like so. Okay, something like that. Same thing on this side. Just want to leave a little bit of white in there. And we had this thingamajig on the front, whatever it is, so I'll shade that in as well. Okay, so something like that. On the inside, if we have bars or whatever, just a little bit of gray here to kind of indicate that there's some stuff up here, you know, on the inside of the bus. A little bit of shadow on the door separation as well. And now I want to introduce some sort of graphic on the bus. Okay, so just with a little light pencil, I'm going to draw in where I want this graphic to be. I'm going to have it shoot down the side of the bus like so, just with a nice little taper. Okay. And the reason for this is I want to make sure that when I apply my marker, I know exactly where I want to put it. Okay. And again, all freehand. I don't really have French curves, so can't exactly utilize those. And just being careful where there is a part separation to leave a small gap. Okay, and that's why I wanted to do it in pencil first before committing to the marker, just to make sure I can hit all the areas I want. The shape is what I want as well. And by doing this, it allows me to pay attention to those part lines or where we have reflections and so forth. Okay? Let's clean up just on the base of the window here with this black marker. And the door. Like so. All right, and we'll fill this in. And I do want to pay attention to where I kind of have these reflections on the side of the bus. So carrying a bit of that through on my graphic here. Let's switch to a really dark gray. That way it's reading as reflective, maybe picking up some of the yellow, that's okay, but not entirely dark. And when you're doing marker, it's helpful to kind of pause and just look at what you've done. So try not to go too fast and get carried away You do want to be deliberate with your strokes, but it's also helpful to just kind of pause, breathe, take a look at it, and make sure you're getting what you want to get out of it. All right. So, like I mentioned, I have this white pencil. So, just on these separated windows, now that my marker is a little dry, and I'm going to hover with my hand over the top because some of this ink is getting a little bit sticky, tricky. So I just want to make sure I don't smudge on my paper. So that's what I'm trying to do here. And then we can brighten up highlights with the white pencil as well. This is kind of a last step. I try not to go over the white pencil with marker as much as I can help it. But it'll help kind of identify where some of these divisions are. We kind of had this slight curve on the bottom of the bus, so pencil on the side just to give it a little bit of body. Same thing on the front here, just a nice pencil right where we're curving. Just kind of hit it nice and flat. Same on the far side. Something like that. And we can clean up where our door is. You know, maybe there's a button or something to push to open the door. Okay. That kind of thing. Push to open. And we need turn signals, so I'm just going to add just under the light. Thankfully, we are using yellow and orange and all that good stuff. So it shouldn't be too hard of a transition, if you will, in terms of color, to just add some orange here for the turn signal. In fact, that blends really well. We'll use that to kind of push some of our body side here. Yeah, that's working out pretty well. I like that. Okay, so turn signals, just like that. And we've got our graphic. I'm actually going to go ahead and shade this in. Just feels right. If I do need to add some sort of reflective element, I can always do that with, in this case, white pencil. So jumping back to my Papermate flare, I want to add just a couple little details here. So maybe these are the latches to open the compartments on the side. Okay, just like that. Kind of clean up some of my lines going through here as well. Adding some hatches to the bottom of this wheel. So we get the texture, we get the lightness, but just kind of subdues it a little bit. Some name for the bus on the front, of course. All that good stuff. All right. And since we had applied the marker here on the side, I just want to kind of make sure that we're nice and dark and showing those reflections on the side of the bus so they're not super washed out. And final step, little white pen just for those highlight areas right here on the top, for example, or even this top corner. So this is just a white pen. You can also use like gouache if you have it, or you know, if you wanted to do this digitally after the fact, that's also an option, but the white pen's just convenient. So my personal preference is to use gouache, but This will do for now. A couple little texture dots on the top of the wheel, like so. All right. And we're doing pretty good. Okay, so once again, thank you for the submission, the idea. This was super fun. I've never sketched a bus, and hopefully you guys were able to learn something and get something good out of this. I certainly had fun. So keep them coming. Be sure to comment. Give me ideas. I love it. Thank you for your support. Love you guys. Hit that subscribe button. Turn on alerts. And we'll see you next time right here on Sketch-A-Day on the short bus.